The last time my daughter called me, I let the phone ring 6 times before answering. I was 82 years old, sitting alone at my kitchen table, staring at a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. Rain tapped against the window above the sink. My hands were wrapped around the mug, although the coffee had been undrinkable for at least 20 minutes. When I finally picked up, she didn't ask why I had taken so long. She simply said, "Mom, I don't know how to talk to you anymore. I want to tell you what I learned about losing a child without ever attending her funeral. I know this because I spent 43 years believing that paying the bills, cooking dinner, washing clothes, and worrying about my daughter meant I was giving her everything a mother could give. I raised her in the same small brick house for 19 years. I packed thousands of school lunches. I knew which brand of cough medicine worked best for her. I saved receipts for her winter boots. I attended parent-teacher meetings and stood in line for hours to buy her the dress she wanted for her high school graduation. I remembered everything. Except how often she needed me to simply sit down and listen. Her name is Claire. She is 56 years old now. And for most of her life, if someone had asked her whether she had a good mother, I think she would have paused before answering. That pause is what I understand now. It took me 82 years to hear it. When Claire was 7, she came home from school with a cut on her knee and dirt on the front of her yellow dress. It was October 1977. I was standing at the stove, frying onions for dinner, and the kitchen smelled of butter and pepper. I remember the clock on the wall saying 5:18. Claire stood in the doorway. "Mom?" I didn't turn around. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Then why are you standing there?" There was a long silence. Then she said, "Some girls said nobody likes me." I remember sighing. Not because I didn't love her. Because the potatoes were boiling over, the phone was ringing, and I still had a pile of laundry waiting in the hallway. "Oh, Claire," I said. "Don't worry about silly things like that. Go wash your hands. Dinner will be ready soon." That was all. 20 seconds, perhaps. Maybe less. She stood there for another moment. Then I heard her shoes move across the floor. That evening, I fed her chicken, potatoes, and peas. I asked whether she had finished her homework. I reminded her to put her dirty clothes in the basket. I never asked who had hurt her. I thought mothers were supposed to solve practical problems. I didn't understand that sometimes a child isn't asking you to solve anything. Sometimes she is only placing something broken in your hands to see if you will notice. When she was 13, I made the same mistake. It was 11:40 at night when I heard her bedroom door close. I was still awake, sitting in the living room with a stack of unpaid bills. Her father had lost his job 3 months earlier, and I had started taking extra shifts at the grocery store. From the outside, we probably looked like a normal family. We had a clean house, food on the table, a car in the driveway. Inside, we were all tired. Especially me. Claire came home late that night. I heard her crying before I saw her. "Where have you been?" I shouted. She stood in the hallway with mascara running down her cheeks. "I was with friends." Friends don't keep a 13-year-old girl out until almost midnight. She looked at me and said something I still remember. "You don't even know who my friends are." I slapped my hand against the kitchen counter. "Don't talk to me like that." She laughed once. It was a terrible sound. Then she went into her room. I told myself she was being dramatic. Teenagers are dramatic, I thought. That was convenient. It allowed me to avoid asking why my own daughter believed I didn't know the people in her life. Years later, I would realize something painful. She wasn't saying I didn't know her friends. She was saying I didn't know her. When Claire was 16, she stopped telling me things altogether. At first, I didn't notice. She became quieter. She spent more time in her room. She answered questions with one word. How was school? Fine. Are you hungry? No. Everything okay? Yes. And I believed her. Why? Because I was exhausted. At 6:30 every morning, I left for work. At 4:15 in the afternoon, I came home. Then there was dinner, cleaning, laundry, bills, and whatever new problem life had brought to our door. I thought I was sacrificing for my daughter. And I was. But sacrifice can become a hiding place. You can keep telling yourself, I'm doing this for my family, while quietly avoiding the part of family life that requires you to be emotionally present. I could work 12 hours for Claire. But I couldn't sit beside her for 12 minutes and ask a question without looking at the clock. That is not something I am proud of. At the time, I would have defended myself. I would have said, I did my best. And perhaps I did. But sometimes your best is still something another person has to recover from. That took me a long time to understand. The worst moment came when she was 23. She had moved into an apartment 40 minutes away. She called me on a Tuesday evening in March. I remember because I had just bought a new washing machine, and I was reading the instruction manual when the phone rang. Hi, Mom. You sound strange. I just wanted to talk. I remember looking at the pages in front of me. About what? She was quiet. Then she said, nothing. I should have stopped there. I should have heard the hesitation. Instead, I said, Claire, I have a lot to do tonight. If it's nothing important, can I call you tomorrow? Another silence. No, she said. That's okay. The next day, I called. She didn't answer. 3 days later, she finally told me that her boyfriend of 4 years had left her. She had called me that Tuesday because she had found his suitcase missing from the apartment. He had taken his clothes while she was at work and left a note on the kitchen table. She had spent that night alone. She had called her mother. And her mother had said she was busy. I apologized. Of course I did. But I apologized the way I had always apologized. Quickly. Practically. I didn't know. And that was true. I didn't know. But after enough years, you have to ask yourself why the people closest to you have stopped telling you what you need to know. Claire eventually married a kind man named Daniel. They had 2 children. For a while, I thought everything had turned out fine. That is another mistake people my age make. We see our children functioning. They have jobs, houses, families. So we assume the wounds disappeared. We don't understand that some people become very good at living while carrying things that never healed. When Claire became a mother herself, something changed between us. She became more distant. At first, I thought she was simply busy. Then, one afternoon, I visited her house and watched her sit beside her daughter, Emma, who was 9 years old at the time. Emma had failed a math test. She was crying at the dining room table. Claire didn't tell her to stop. She didn't say, it's not a big deal. She didn't explain how to improve the grade. She simply sat down. Emma put her head against Claire's shoulder. And Claire stayed there. For nearly 10 minutes. No advice. No solutions. Just her hand on that little girl's back. I watched them from the kitchen. And I felt something inside me become very quiet. Because suddenly I remembered a little girl in a yellow dress standing in my kitchen 48 years earlier. Some girls said nobody likes me. I had been so busy saving dinner that I didn't see I was losing something much more important. The phone call came 3 years ago. 6 rings. Then I answered. Hello? Mom. Yes? I don't know how to talk to you anymore. For once in my life, I didn't interrupt. She continued. I've spent my whole life trying to figure out what you actually feel. When something good happened, you would tell me to be careful. When something bad happened, you would tell me what to do. When I cried, you told me not to cry. My hand tightened around the phone. Claire, I loved you. I know. Her answer surprised me. I had expected anger. Instead, her voice was tired. I know you loved me. That's what makes it confusing. I couldn't speak. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. You loved me like I was a responsibility. I felt my fingers go numb. Outside, the rain continued against the window. You were my responsibility, I whispered. I know, Mom. There was no anger in her voice. That made it worse. Then she said, I just wish sometimes I had felt like I was also someone you wanted to know. And then there was silence. Real silence. Not the silence I usually rushed to fill with explanations. I sat at my kitchen table with the cold coffee between my hands. For 82 years, I had believed that love was proven by what you did. And there I was, realizing that I had spent decades doing things for my daughter while she waited for me to simply be with her. That was the moment everything changed. Not because I suddenly became a better mother. At my age, I am suspicious of sudden transformations. But I finally stopped defending myself. I said, you're right. Nothing more. Just those 2 words. Then I cried. Not loudly. I had never been good at loud crying. The tears simply fell onto the back of my hand. Claire was quiet for a long time. Then I heard her breathe. And she said, I didn't think you would say that. Neither did I. Since then, I have learned one rule that I wish I had understood when Claire was 7. Before you give advice, ask one question. Do you want me to help you solve this, or do you just need me to sit here with you? It sounds simple. Almost embarrassingly simple. But that question would have changed my entire life. Because there are people we love who don't need our wisdom. They need our attention. I used to call attention time. Now I call it something else. I call it proof. When you give someone your undivided attention, even for 5 minutes, you are telling them, what is happening inside you matters enough for me to stop my own life and notice it. That is a language I never learned to speak. But I am learning it now. Slowly. At 85, I call my daughter every Sunday morning. Sometimes she talks for an hour. Sometimes she talks for 7 minutes. Sometimes she tells me about her grandchildren, her work, or a problem with her car. And sometimes she says nothing important at all. That is when I have to be careful. Because the old version of me still wants to say, why are you telling me this? Instead, I listen. Last winter, Claire called while I was making coffee. The kettle was whistling. The toast was burning. The kitchen timer was ringing. 40 years ago, I would have said, Claire, I can't talk right now. Instead, I turned off the stove. I let the toast burn. I sat down. Tell me, I said. She was quiet for a second. Then she began. And while she talked, I looked at the steam rising from my ruined breakfast and thought about how much of my life I had spent saving things that didn't need saving. Dinner. Laundry. Money. Time. Meanwhile, the people I loved were standing in doorways, waiting for me to turn around. Maybe you are thinking you still have time. Maybe your daughter is 20. Maybe your son is 40. Maybe your husband is sleeping in the next room. Maybe there is someone whose calls you keep ignoring because you assume there will always be another chance.